How do you measure a man? Jean-Luc Picard has been defined as many things. He's been a stalwart leader, a father figure, a meme, multiple memes, and a guiding light. With Star Trek Picard on the horizon, me and a group of fellow Star Trek YouTubers banded together to create a project where we share what Jean-Luc Picard has meant to us, and why he stands as one of the best representations of what humanity can become. All of these videos have been compiled into a playlist, and if you want to share your own moments, let us know on Twitter and we will add your video to the playlist as well. For me, my defining moment with Picard can be crystallized in one pivotal scene. It's the scene that asked me one simple question. How do we measure a man?
Now, the decision you reach here today will determine how we will regard this creation of our genius. It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android.
Before we get into it, I need to back up to say why this moment is so defining for me. In Measure of a Man, Lieutenant Maddox, a scientist who has studied Data's creator Dr. Soon's work, orders Data to be disassembled in order to study him, so that Maddox may one day be able to make another being just like Data. In the process though, Maddox has thoroughly dehumanized Data.
You are endowing Data with human characteristics because it looks human, but it is not. If it were a box on wheels, I would not be facing this opposition.
Maybe dehumanized isn't the right word here because it seems a bit too human, but hey, language is imperfect. But the best way we can see Maddox's dehumanization is in the small, subtle ways, such as when Maddox refers to Data.
How will you proceed?
I will run a full diagnostic on Data, evaluating the condition of its current software. I will then dump its core memory into the Starbase mainframe computer and begin a detailed analysis of its construction.
Throughout the entire episode, Maddox only refers to Data as an it, as a thing, a piece of property, not even giving him proper respect of being called a him. Language is always the first step towards dehumanization. When you start to talk about someone as different or strange or weird, it's easy to slip into, well, saying that they're less than. As a trans person, this is something that I get a lot. Take a look at any of my videos or articles that I've written on transgender issues, or sometimes just any video that features me physically, and you'll find a ton of comments that say, freak show, or are you a he or a she or an it, or I bet you're an attack helicopter, because apparently no one knows how to move on from an already extremely uncreative joke. But this is the exact type of issue that Data faces.
It sits there looking at me, and I don't know what it is.
That's a statement that I, as a trans person who doesn't appear to have a clear gender, gets all the time. People don't know what I am. They can't easily define me right away. So they start to equate me with being weird or strange, or starting to see me as less than. So how do we measure a man, or trans woman in my case? This is the exact question that Picard demands be answered. Throughout the episode, Data's plight is repeatedly ignored by those in charge. An admiral assigns Data to be disassembled. Maddox just can't seem to get that hungry gleam out of his eye every time he looks at Data.
But you admire him.
Oh, yes. It is an extraordinary piece
Of engineering and programming, yes, you have said that.
I wish some of my sexual partners would look at me the same way that Maddox looks at a positronic brain, if you know what I mean. And the JAG officer in charge of Data's case summarily states that Data is Starfleet's property.
I have completed my research based on the acts of Cumberland passed in the early 21st century. Data is the property of Starfleet. He cannot resign and he cannot refuse to cooperate with Commander Maddox.
Yet Picard knows that this is wrong, that Data has rights.
Data is a Starfleet officer. He still has certain rights.
Right. I'm sick to death of hearing about rights. What about my right not to have my life work subverted by blind ignorance?
As a trans woman, I hear this type of thinking all the time. I have a right to be treated with respect. For example, to have people use pronouns that represent who I am. But others place their own interests above my own basic dignity, saying that they don't want to use my correct pronouns because it somehow infringes on them, or they see me as ignorant of my own biology. Yet by doing so, by not using the pronouns that refer to me, they devalue me, because they don't see my basic respect of my pronouns, or seeing my identity as something equal to their own. They see their own minor comfortability with using pronouns that just easily clicks into their head more as more important than my well-being and feeling of safety in a space. Picard sees through this. He knows that how we understand, how we measure Data is much more than his usefulness to us. That data can be more than just property, just a thing that has value but is also disposable.
Maddox could get lucky and create a whole army of data, all very valuable.
Oh, yes, no doubt.
He's proved his value to you.
In ways that I cannot even begin to calculate.
And now he's about to be ruled the property of Starfleet. That should increase his value.
In what way?
This is a truly wonderful scene, because it shows something that we often don't get to see. I've been relating Data's experience in this episode to my own trans experience, because that's what I can relate it to. But Guinan in this scene clearly evokes the image of slavery.
Well, consider that in the history of many worlds, there have always been disposable creatures. They do the dirty work. They do the work that no one else wants to do because it's too difficult or too hazardous. And an army of Data's all disposable. You don't have to think about their welfare. You don't think about how they feel. Whole generations of disposable people.
As she's played by the brilliant Whoopi Goldberg, a black woman in America, it's very clear how powerful that imagery is in that moment. Yet, Picard sits here and listens. He takes the moment to understand someone else's pain, to hear someone else speak about their struggles.
He's talking about slavery.
I think that's a little harsh.
I don't think that's a little harsh. I think that's the truth. But that's a truth that we have obscured behind a comfortable, easy euphemism.
As a captain, and as a human, and as what we can assume based on him being white, Picard hasn't always had to face the same issues or struggles that someone like Guinan or Data have faced. Picard knows that he wants to fight for others, but he also knows that he can't know what others feel. So he goes and he learns. He tries to see things from someone else's point of view.
Sir, Lieutenant LaForge's eyes are far superior to human biological eyes, true?
Mm-hmm.
Then why are not all human officers required to have their eyes replaced with cybernetic implants? I see. It is precisely because I am not human.
This ability to be empathetic, to listen to the plight of others and not just assume we know, even if we have the best of intentions to help others, is so sorely lacking today. Even from allies to people like myself in the trans community, they don't always hear what we have to say. And it's something that I as a white person try to do for people of color, try to listen to what they have to say, though I don't always succeed, even when I try my best to fight alongside that community. But Picard does take this moment. Picard sits and listens and begins to understand the real issue at the heart of all of this over the battle for Data. So all of that gets us to this moment, to the moment that for me truly defines one Jean-Luc Picard.
Commander, would you enlighten us? What is required for sentience?
Intelligence, self-awareness, consciousness.
Prove to the court that I am sentient.
This is absurd. We all know you're sentient.
So I am sentient, but Commander Data is not.
That's right.
Picard asks Maddox to define sentience, to essentially define humanity, define life itself. And Maddox tries, but ultimately falters.
My status, my right to choose. My life. Well, it seems reasonably self-aware to me, Commander. I'm waiting.
This is exceedingly difficult.
Because we can't always define life. We can't define the other. We understand ourselves and understand our own inherent value. And so we see others who look like us and seem like us as having inherent value as well. The closer to us, the easier it is.
We all know you're sentient.
So I'm sentient, but Commander Data is not.
That's right.
But when we look across and see someone truly different from us, the true test, the true measurement, isn't about how we define them. It's about how we define ourselves through their eyes. How do we measure a man?
It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android.
The question of this episode of how we measure a man never referred to Data. We weren't measuring Data's humanity, but our own. And that's what Picard understood in this moment.
A wonder even, but thousands of Datas. Isn't that becoming a race? And won't we be judged by how we treat that race? Now tell me, Commander, what is Data? The decision you reach here today will determine how we will regard this creation of our genius. It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android. It could significantly redefine the boundaries of personal liberty and freedom, expanding them for some, savagely curtailing them for others.
Starfleet and Star Trek has always been about seeking out new life. And we see that as a beautiful, aspirational goal, but it also seems innocuous. Of course we want to go see alien worlds and people, but it's a lot more complicated than that, as our own history shows. Sometimes seeking out new life and new civilizations in human history has a darker edge to it, because we don't always see that new life and new civilization as equal. So the ideal to seek out new life and new civilizations isn't exactly an easy one. It's one fraught with history, fraught with pain, fraught with subjugation, fraught with dehumanization. So the desire to go out and find new life and new civilizations needs to come with it a desire to hold those new civilizations as worthwhile and equal.
The Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. Waiting.
Here, Picard shows us how truly evolved and hard to uphold this philosophy of seeking new life in peace and equality truly is. How hard it is for us as humans to see beyond ourselves when something doesn't look like us. Picard reminds us in this moment that we must always strive to see beyond who we are, to see beyond what is similar, to fully see the others around us. Yet in that, we are reminded that it's not about what makes us different, but what makes us the same. Because while Data is a different being, a different form of life, he is still life. The fact that we can see Data's differences and then respect those differences then allows us to find commonality. To say, Data is life. He is life like us. He is like us. But we can only do that if we recognize the differences first and accept them, respect them, and even love them. This is the ideal that Picard upheld in that one moment. It's the ideal that he holds up throughout all of his appearances in every episode and movie. Fight for those other than yourself. That is what defines Picard to me, what makes him one of the best captain and leaders ever put to screen. So when I go out into the world and I try to be the best person I can, the person who I measure myself up to is Picard himself.
You wanted a chance to make law? Well, here it is. Make it a good one.
What is your defining moment for Picard? And also don't forget to check out some of the other wonderful videos that have already been made for Captain Picard Day out on the playlist. It should be linked down below. Please check them out. They're made by some really wonderful Trek YouTubers, and I really recommend that you check them all out. I'm so excited to be checking out the rest of them myself. Also, if you liked this video and want to see more like it, please make sure to give my channel a subscribe. And if you want to help make these videos even better, please give to my Patreon page. Every little bit helps, even if you donate just a little bit. It really helps me pay my bills, helps make these videos better. Oh, also this episode has one line that describes Picard, especially at this point, perfectly.
It brings a sense of order and stability to my universe to know that you're still a pompous ass. And a damn sexy man.
There is nothing sexier to me than a man fighting for others' rights.
It's unjustified, it's unfair. He has rights.
Oh my, getting so steamy in here.
Don't start.
But regardless of if you subscribe or give to my Patreon, I hope that all of you, as always, live long and prosper. And special thanks to my commander level and above Patreons, Stefan Schuhart, Michael McGee, Boyd Earl, Law Lindley, Wellington Marcus, Munir Amlani, BBD, and Mari Nekar.